And we're back.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Back to the Wellness Show with Angela and Safiya, and we're talking about such a simple thing that we don't even pay attention to. We're talking about breathing, essential and good breathing, which, to summarize, we need to breathe from
our nose.
The nose. At least
inhale from our nose.
Never
else. From our mouth.
Don't breathe.
Never.
From your mouth or your ears.
Only your nose.
So, Angela, we promised that now will be talking about how breathing can be linked to our metabolism and weight loss.
I know, it's shocking. And I've been trying to implement a set of breathing exercises, but I'm going to have to become more committed.
Mm-hmm.
At least 10 minutes every day, at least minimum. But I'm sure if I want to see a difference, it will have to be longer. In the meantime, I'm trying to improve my breathing quality and breathing properly and slowing down, because I realize now after reading and hearing all of this that I do also breathe way too fast. Okay?
Yeah.
So first let's define what metabolism is again, right? So metabolism is the sum total of all the chemical reactions that go on in living cells. It's the speed at which the body produces energy, not just energy for the digestion of, say, ice cream, but for all our body's numerous chores. For example, at the rate at which your body runs your brain, your heart, your liver, your kidneys, your growth of your fingernails, etc. So that's the definition, okay? And it's linked to breathing. Breathing is the key to warming and waking up your metabolism, believe it or not. So when you breathe more oxygen into your body, several things happen to speed up your metabolism. Okay? So
fascinating.
That's the important part. When you breathe, the heat in your body rises, and that causes for your body to burn more fat. Think about it this way: when we want to do a barbecue, we put the coals on, we start the fire. What makes the coals hotter? We blow on it, and that makes it hotter, and the oxygen is increasing the heat. And when you want to take out a fire, what do they say? The first thing to do is cover the fire to remove the oxygen.
Yeah, that makes real sense.
So that's basically what we have to remember. The more oxygen, the hotter the coals.
Mm-hmm.
When you want to do that. So that same thing works in our body.
Is that the same thing then in the body? Is that basically the principle?
It's the principle,
wow.
Yeah. And basically, they found that thin people with high metabolism, who have high metabolism, have a much higher thermic rate. That means they're hotter.
Right.
They burn things faster, and so to pump up your metabolism, you need to heat up your cell burners by giving them more oxygen. By breathing deeply, you can literally reset your thermostat, your so-called internal thermostat. And that what happens is that once your thermostat rises, you're actually burning fat while you're sleeping, while you're sitting, or if you're climbing Mount Everest, which very few of us in this world will do. But that's
basically showing that it's beneficial. Mm-hmm. Whatever you do, even if you do nothing, you will heat up more, you will burn more.
Yeah. And what happens is when you're breathing in deeply, it heat detoxifies all your organs and tissues and revitalizes the entire system. So you have to make a concerted effort to do the breathing, well, wherever you're sitting. Mm-hmm. So as Muslims, we pray 5 times a day, mm-hmm. right? You could literally do that. Try to harmonize your salah with your breathing, and you'll realize how we are not breathing well. We're not breathing well. We're breathing backwards. Mm-hmm. You should be breathing in. Your stomach rises because you
need to make space for the diaphragm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then when you're breathing out, your tummy goes in, and you have to think of pushing it against your spine almost when you're breathing out, and you do it slowly. I will do an exercise at the end of the talk of the show so that you guys can take that away and try something at home. but basically, the more you breathe deeply, the higher your metabolism goes. Obviously, you have to do it regularly in order to see the results. But basically,
it's like training, isn't it? It's like training a muscle.
It's linked. It's linked for. So there's an argument that says that, in fact, it's not when you exercise, people lose weight. It's in fact, it's not. The argument is it's not the exercise itself that's burning, that's making you lose weight. It's what's happening is while you're exercising, you're breathing more. Therefore, increasing your heat and burning the fat. So you can sit and do it while you're sitting. Say there's people who cannot exercise for some reason or other.
It's been now agreed, generally speaking, that if you want to lose weight and you just exercise and do nothing else, you will not lose a lot of weight. Anyway, that's now more or less accepted. Yeah,
we know that it's linked to food, but exercise.
But if you breathe better and if you breathe deeply while you do your exercise, then obviously that's the part of the exercise that helps you lose the weight.
That's what's helping you lose the weight. It's the breathing.
Yeah, the burning of that heat.
So that's amazing. I mean, there's hope even for people who would have a lot of mobility issues. They can improve their health and take it to a better level. So eventually they can do more. Is you do exercise, breathing exercises to help you to improve your health overall. So basically, according to this book that I'm reading,
remind the book.
The book is Jumpstart Your Metabolism by Pam Grout. She basically outlines in her book that there's no excuse. You can't blame, for example, your age, your sex, or your heredity on your slow metabolism. That in fact, she argues in her book, that we have a lot of control over it, and the control we have is breathing. That because
it's the key. It sounds like it's like the key to open, to unlock and sort things out in your metabolism. Like your port of entry.
Yeah, I mean, the common idea right now is that if you're a woman, your metabolism is slower than an average man's, and if you're not a kid anymore, it's not as fast as it used to be.
Yeah.
But there's examples. So I'll mention the 3 examples she mentions. There's a woman who she lived up to age 85, and she was thin. She was always thin. She never gained weight, as supposedly you should gain as you get older as a woman. And then a 27-year-old man, another example, who was literally like how many stones? He was 1,400 pounds, literally 27-year-old male, 1,400 pounds, in bed for years, and it took 4.5 hours for a team of
to lift him up,
paramedics to lift him back into bed. In theory, he shouldn't have a weight problem because he's a male and he's 27, right?
Why one and not the other?
Exactly. So there's more to it. And then an example, she brings up another example of a young girl who's graduating from high school, and at her graduation, she's one of the thinnest girls around. Meanwhile, in the audience, her parents are 2 of the heaviest set people in the room, and that points to heredity, right? If her parents are this way, how come she
you would expect her to be the same, but it's not necessarily true.
So basically the argument of this book is that if you need to change your breathing, improve it, make it a conscious effort, and it will help you to lose weight.
And this is exactly what we're about in the show, isn't it? It's don't feel that you're a victim of your body, your circumstances. You think you have control over most things that happen to you, with the will of Allah, obviously. But when you're conscious about a problem, you often have a solution. Like Allah says, there's a cure for every illness in nature. And this is, our bodies, our own bodies is part of nature. There is a cure in our own bodies for most illnesses.
And it's so important to remember that breathing and metabolism are inseparable. And oxygen is the key, and it will always be the key
I mean, for me,
to
this
increase
is
your metabolic rate.
This is a major discovery when we discussed the preparation for this show. That is such a direct link to it really makes it much more relevant and important. It's like, oh, it's not just I just have to breathe better for whatever reason because we breathe and I have to breathe better. No, we explain to you exactly how this process works. And remember, if there's anything you were not able to catch on this show, we will answer any question on info@heritage.org.uk, heritageradio.org.uk, sorry. So info@heritageradio.org.uk. Send us a message. Say on the subject matter that it's for the wellness show. Even if you don't remember, it's Angela and Safiya, but just the wellness show, ideally the date and what it was about, and we'll be able to answer any of your questions. And you'll also find all of our audio recording on YouTube on our channel, The Wellness Show with Angela and Safiya. Very easy. Yeah. Very easy to find. So if there's anything you want to listen again, and at some point we'll
make sure that we put the names of the 2 books we're referencing and the video we're referencing.
Definitely, that will be on YouTube in the description.
Notes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But again, if you just want to send us an email, we'll be more than happy
Love to hear from you and
yes,
your feedback.
Absolutely. And questions and suggestions as well for ideas of shows, because it may be that you have a particular issue you'd like us to explore and we've not thought about it. We're only at the beginning of our long series of shows here at Heritage Radio. We have lots of ideas, but we're always open to suggestions, definitely. So that's definitely the takeout is breathe from your nose and you'll help your metabolism. Fantastic. That's just and
can we do one little exercise before we say goodbye?
Definitely. We will do, but can we go through some tips about how to breathe better, maybe, or how is it that we should? You mentioned the sequence, like you should relax your tummy, let the diaphragm go down,
so
and then
put your hand on your chest,
Mm-hmm.
one hand and one on your tummy, just to see how you're breathing.
Okay.
And then you just breathe through your nose.
Right. So what rises first? Is that what you mean? Is it your tummy or your chest?
Yeah.
So you're saying the right way should be the tummy should relax and increase and
should rise first. Should rise higher than your chest.
And then your chest.
And then your chest.
And
your chest should not rise, because if your chest is rising more higher than your tummy, obviously if we have weights around your if you have a lot of weight, you might not be able to, but you'll be able to tell by putting your hands there what's rising. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's your chest rising, you're not doing it right.
You're not breathing deeply enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to breathe out. Breathe in, and make sure your tummy is filling up with air, and you it extends.
So that means the diaphragm has got space to go, and the lower lungs get filled up.
And then as you breathe out,
first the tummy, that's to push the diaphragm back up.
Your tummy is getting pushed in, and pretend you're trying to touch your spine almost. Like it's when you're sitting down, you could do this, right? Obviously, I'm not telling you this is how you should breathe, walking around. No, this is how to improve our breathing. And this is an exercise to sit down for 5-10 minutes every day and improve your breathing.
So basically,
until it becomes a better habit.
Mm-hmm. It's you're training your muscles to behave in a different way. We have memory cells in our muscles, so you can train your muscle to do something different quite easily. But you just have to start consciously first. So that's one way. That's how to breathe. You breathe through the nose. We said that several times already. You need to breathe slowly as well. So for instance, you inhale on 4 and you exhale on what, 8?
So this is how you could do it. You could do it as a triangle. So you breathe in 5. You count 5 in your head, and then you hold it for 5, and then you breathe out for 5, and that's a triangle. So you're going 5, 5, 5. If you want to do a little bit better, you can do it as a box, a square. You breathe in 5, you hold 5, you breathe out 5, and then you hold 5
Again.
before you breathe in again.
So this is to help again. We explain about the exchange and the impact of CO2 over the oxygen to release more oxygen into your bloodstream. So that's one way.
And there's another exercise, the last one we'll talk about today, to increase your lung capacity to slowly. So this is what you do. You breathe in, for example, 5. And then you double that, you multiply that by 4. So you hold in by 20. So you're going in and you hold it by 20. And then you breathe out by 10. So whatever if you were breathing 5, you hold times 4. And when you're breathing out, you do it 5 times 2 twice. So 10. So if we use 5 as the base, you breathe in 5, you hold 20, and you breathe out 10. Right? And so you do that. So if it's 6, if you're breathing in 6, you hold 24 and you breathe out in 12. Okay, so it's like the formula 1, 4, 2. I'm not sure. You'll have to watch the video when you're to remind yourself of this tip, I guess.
Yeah, and sometimes I'm sure a lot of people, if you go on the internet, you often find lots of videos, tips. I mean, obviously TikTok now is a big thing, but YouTube, and you find a lot of advice if you want to research this further. One thing that I do often in my Pilates classes is to make them breathe from in the back into the back, because what we find as well, because obviously this connection with the oxygen, we find that muscles get very tense, and then if they get more oxygen, they relax. So you can curl up in a ball, or you kind of roll a little bit forward, so you stop the air going into the front, so it doesn't go as much into your tummy and in your lungs, but it goes in the lungs obviously, but you don't feel them so much at the front. You start filling up the lower back, the sacrum, and then you feel like consciously the lower back, the waist, into the side, the soft sides that you have in your waist, and then into the upper back. You open your separate your scapula, your shoulder blades. And this really relaxes, it stretches the muscles, it opens the back. Also breathing into your rib cage. Often we don't breathe into the rib cage enough, the side of the rib cage. So you can put your hands around your rib cage with your thumb behind, your hand wrapped around, and your fingertips at the front, and you just breathe into that, pushing your elbows out. You push your elbows out, you can see them going out and then in again. And you will forget the rib cage is a joint. It's got bones, and it's got ligaments and tender soft tissues, and it's got muscles. It's like a concertina or a fan. It opens like your fingers, opens, and then contracts again and gets smaller and opens. So by increasing that movement, you relax your rib cage and you help create more space for deeper breathing. So before we go into more the last bit of advice and technique, we're going to take a short break for the adhan. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Are you ready for a show today?
Yes, I am.
Well, today we're going to be talking about something that seems very unimportant, but it's one of the most important things we do, is breathing.
Subhanallah.
And its relation to our metabolism and our health in general.
Yes, indeed. So we have found some really interesting facts about breathing. So did you know, for instance, that we breathe about 25,000 times a day? And that's an average per minute of 12 to 18 times.
That's something that's been counted.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. And everybody's probably wondering, well, why are you talking about breathing?
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about breathing because we know from our research, and since we're talking about wellness here, it's so vital to our health, and we need to do it right, in the right way. Can you believe that most of us don't breathe the right way? And that's linked back to a lot of our health problems.
Yes, indeed. So, for instance, there's some more and more experts actually coming out on YouTube and other places, books dedicated to breathing. And there's one of the ones that we both know of and quite enjoy the knowledge from is called James Nestor, and he's a scientific journalist. Actually, never really wanted to go into that, as he explains. He says that. He was just, but he was very unwell, and there was a stage where he discovered that breathing was the way to make himself better. So he's got this book called Breathe, The New Science of a Lost Art. And he, in this book, it just basically explains a lot how the many health conditions nowadays are caused, are metabolic diseases, diabetes, hypertension, asthma, gut issues, anxiety, all caused from not breathing properly, and mainly breathing too much,
Too fast.
not deeply enough, but also just too much, too many breaths. And he recommends to slow down your breathing so that your body goes into what's called homeostasis, where it does well what it's supposed to do. So he, also he's found that breathing is the anchor to all the systems to the body, especially inflammation. So the breathing issues that we know of are things like snoring, sleep apnea, where you stop breathing in the middle of the night sometimes, and mouth breathing. But Angela, what you've also noticed, obviously, with your interest in nutrition, etc., you found that breathing has a direct impact to our metabolism and our weight. Or you had some quotes first you wanted to share with us that you'd found.
Sure, but this just showcased throughout the ages what some people, well-known people, have said about breathing and how important it is, though we take it for granted, right? So, for example, one quote is, "The thing we know best is that of which we are the least conscious." And this was said by Samuel Butler.
Oh, I think you need to repeat that one. Go ahead. The what?
"The thing we know best is that of which we are the least conscious."
Okay.
We also, we're next is "He lives most who breathes most air" by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, if you guys know who this is. Famous English woman. Also, an American woman said, "Oxygen is the big cheese." She is Susan Powter, who was a fitness guru, and in the 90s, she made a big impact on weight loss in America. And one by a Buddhist monk, "Breathe is aligned to both body and mind, and it alone can bring them." Breathe is aligned to both body and mind, and it alone can bring them together.
Wow. So basically he's saying that breathing connects the body and the mind and put them sort of in a nice, that's what basically Nestor was saying, the homeostasis. That's really, so it really shows that breathing has been mentioned already throughout the ages. It's not a new thing.
Before I talk about the metabolism, I just wanted to mention that Nestor, and in his book he outlines an experiment him and another scientist did. They did a couple of weeks of each. So first week they taped up their noses completely, that you could not breathe through it, and they were only allowed to breathe through their mouth. And throughout those days that they were, I believe it was 2 weeks, okay, don't quote me, it's in the book though, the whole experiment is outlined. They only could do breathing through the mouth. They could not breathe from the nose. And they went about their day, and every activity they were doing, sleeping, eating, everything, walking, anything, they did it by nose. Even they did riding their bikes. And at the end of the time, before they uncovered their nose, they had to take measurements. And then after that, they did 2 weeks of breathing through the nose, right? Like the normal breathing. And it really, like their statistics after the 2 weeks of breathing through their mouth, their health deteriorated, like really, like
Wow.
all the measurements were not very good. They were like sick. It affected everything, like their mouth, their throat, their speaking, their everything, even their blood levels of oxygen. But when they started breathing through their nose again, pretty quickly, it went back to normal, right? So they were just trying to prove about the levels of carbon dioxide also, and about breathing and how to breathe and all of that, right? So you have to read this book, and we're gonna put it in the link. If you're interested in health, if you're into fitness, you should read anything to do with breathing, and it's a very good book. So we'll put it in the link of our video, inshallah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys can get it even as a Kindle if you want.
Yeah. So what other things I've found about the damages that mouth breathing can do. So let's be clear right now. You should breathe from your nose.
Definitely.
Nothing else. Inhale, potentially exhale from your nose, but at least inhale from your nose. Why? Because in your nose you've got all these follicles that are there, first of all, to filter all of the microbes and the germs and everything. So that's the first port of filtering those nasty things. You don't have that in your mouth. So when you breathe from your mouth, they go directly into your lungs. There's no filtering. Also, when the air goes through your nose, it also keeps the moisture, of the air, the droplets of water that are contained in the air. When it goes into the mouth, this completely evaporates, so there's no moisture going. So also, in terms of the structure of your mouth, when you breathe from your mouth, especially at night, but even generally speaking, your tongue drops to the bottom of your mouth. So there's no pressure onto the roof of your mouth when you breathe. When you breathe from your nose, you can do the test, breathe from your nose with your mouth closed, and then do the same thing, breathe with your mouth. Your tongue will be in different positions. So when you breathe from your nose, it goes to the roof of your mouth, puts pressure on the roof of your mouth and shapes it, gives it space, opens it. So especially when you're a child, breathing from your nose, this will help to open your jaw, have enough space for your teeth, etc.
It actually affects your mouth's biology and your teeth and everything.
Yeah.
And we've found from research that most people breathe backwards. And what do I mean by backwards? So when you're breathing in through your nose, what should happen is you're breathing deeply and your stomach raises, and then you breathe out. But if you everyone who's listening and has an interest in this should take some minutes out and see how they breathe. So if you put your hand on your chest and on your stomach and breathe, and you'll see what rises more, your stomach or your chest. And if it's your chest that's rising, you're breathing wrong, because your stomach should come in first, up, and then you're breathing out, and it should go down. But if you're not being aware of what you're doing, most of the time your stomach goes in, and then your stomach goes out when you're breathing out, and that's the backward way.
And that basically what happens in the muscles is that you're contracting your muscles, pushing them in. So the diaphragm, which is a kind of it's a parachute muscle, just sitting under your rib cage, and it just goes down. So that's how you feel like we don't really breathe from this. When we say belly breathing, it's not really breathing into the belly because there's no lungs there.
Yeah.
But it's an image to show that basically the muscles are relaxed and they open and they expand. So your tummy expands a bit. That allows for the diaphragm to go down and the lungs to expand and fill up. So that's why it's quite essential, because otherwise if you contract your muscles in the tummy, there's no space for that diaphragm to go. Therefore, there's no space for the lower lungs, the bottom part of the lungs, to be filled up with fresh new air. And therefore, this is where all the little
toxins.
Yeah, but also this is where all the little
alveoli?
veins. Yeah,
the
little veins, the capillaries are to absorb the oxygen and go into the bloodstream.
Yeah.
So if you don't put any fresh new air there with good oxygen, there's no oxygen to go into your body. And this is where it all starts.
Yes, we're not removing toxins that should be removed. If you don't do deep breathing, it's so important, it's so vital, and we'll be talking more and more about it. But as Safiya being an athlete, she'll tell you how important it is as an athlete to breathe well.
Oh, yes.
Right? But even for everybody,
it's not because you're doing any particular strenuous exercise that you should breathe from your nose.
It affects every area of our life, even stress levels.
So we were talking about how it changes the shape of your mouth, and James Nestor goes as far as to say if you have issues with your mouth being too narrow, it's probably because when you were a child you were not breathing properly. So instead of having lots of teeth removed and again making your mouth even narrower because then the bones will just shrink, you should first and foremost change the way you breathe by having your tongue on the roof of your mouth, closing your mouth, breathing from your nose, and then you will see your mouth expand because all our bones, they're malleable.
It takes time, but it's doable. But there is an exercise that he recommends and other sleep specialists recommend, because not breathing properly, it affects even your sleeping, and it could lead to snoring and apnea, right? So our little exercise he recommends for people to try to reverse all of this is to put like a small piece of tape on your mouth, like a small one on your lips when you go to bed, and get used to doing that. It will encourage you to breathe from your nose at night. Of course, it's going to take some practice, but it will improve your sleep.
Yeah, because obviously, if you think about it, imagine for a third of your life, which is the time you sleep, technically, you are not breathing properly. Your body cannot repair properly. So this is also a major time when you are causing issue directly to your body because you're not allowing it to do what it's supposed to do. So I've tried a taping approach. If you're a bit like me, hypersensitive, as in like you don't like to have certain fabric or texture and stuff, you become very conscious, but you do get desensitized eventually where you even forget it's there. But it forces your mouth to stay shut because at night you don't control your muscles and your mouth. And I'm sure a lot of you will have a moment where you wake up in the night, it's like, oh, I was snoring, or my mouth was open. Or you don't wake up, but in the morning you wake up with a very, very dry mouth. Now,
Definitely
ladies
true.
who are caring about their appearance and they're nice to have a nice glowing face, and
Very good self-care
breathing
step.
will properly from your nose, as we said, will give all that hydration inside your body. Therefore, your skin will look nicer.
Definitely.
So many things. I mean, obviously, another important thing is that when you do exercise, so we're talking about you go about your daily life, obviously, breathe from the nose, but when you do exercise, you need so much more oxygen. Your muscles are working harder. They need extra oxygen. How are you going to bring that oxygen if you breathe like this?
And fast.
And fast.
And through your mouth.
Exactly.
Not,
it's not going to
it's
happen.
a no.
No. So, first of all, you need to get out of the habit that if your heart rate is rising, you need to breathe really, really fast. Sometimes it's just a habit we have developed from understanding things wrong or being told things wrong, maybe, or not being corrected when we're doing something wrong without realizing it.
Well, most of us breathe wrong.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're breathing literally backwards.
Yeah. So what you have to do is your heart rate will rise a little bit, but you can control it as well. It doesn't need to rise really, really fast. You can control it by breathing from your nose, but slowing down the breathing. And then you'll get better oxygen. Your lungs will, open up. You'll be
able to hold your breath longer too.
Yeah.
Because practicing to hold your breath longer is very good for you. That's a way to slow down breathing.
Yeah.
And it's very, very good for your body.
Mm-hmm. And then you'll help your
it also
muscles,
increases the
obviously.
capacity of your lungs.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So swimming actually is a good way of increasing your capacity, your lung capacity, because when you're in water, because of the water pressure, you lose. You can only breathe up to like 75% of the lung capacity at that time. But the more you do it, and the more you breathe deeply in water, your lungs will expand, and they will get used to having more air in with more pressure.
Deep sea divers who swim for coral or pearls and sponges and all of that, they have the best lung capacity.
Yeah. And this is because of nowadays, and so then when you go into the outside of the water, your lungs will be used to expanding more. Therefore, you'll be performing better outside. But yeah, so if you do exercise, don't think you have to all of a sudden breathe really fast. No, you can force yourself to breathe slower and calmer. It doesn't have to be
and
like
then it
really
becomes
deep,
a habit.
Forced breath, but like exactly. And your heart rate will also settle down and be better performing because it's got more better quality oxygen. And so that's really when you do exercise, it's really important to be conscious about how you breathe, because you want to be performing a lot better, don't you? So really, the takeout is be conscious. Are you breathing from your mouth? If yes, make sure you don't anymore ever again.
Only exhale if you must.
Yeah.
There's some exercises you could still breathe in and out through your nose. Though we'll talk about one particular exercise just to get you started.
Yeah.
But only exhale from your mouth.
Yeah. I would like to just touch
and inhale from
on
your
something
nose.
A little bit more technical, but I thought it was quite an interesting explanation about the link between CO2, which is carbon dioxide, which is what we exhale, and oxygen. And when you block your breathing, so you inhale and you stop, you don't breathe, you block your mouth, your nose, you don't breathe, you hold your breath. The fact that you want to breathe after a while, it's not because your body wants oxygen, it's actually because there's too much CO2 building up in your body. So you need to exhale it. So it's first because of that, not because of the need of oxygen, which is really interesting.
The interesting fact, you just reminded me to tell you this interesting fact, is that when they do CPR, when somebody passes out and they do a life breath, we used to think it's because they're breathing oxygen in their mouth.
Yeah.
And no, it's the CO2 that we're breathing into their lungs that stimulates their lungs to work again.
Yeah.
It's the CO2 that's doing it, not the oxygen.
Very interesting. And because what's happening, what is the role of CO2 in your lungs? When you breathe, you have CO2 in your lungs, it helps the oxygen to dissociate from the red blood cells and go into the muscles. So it has a role. It's needed. So for instance, someone who, for instance, asthmatic, they're told when they have like an attack, they are told to cup their hands and place them in front of their mouth and their nose to basically breathe in the CO2 and calm down. And it has happened to me, actually. There was a stage where I was training really, really intensively, and I felt dizzy, like I was going to faint. And my instructor told me, sit down and breathe into your hands, cup your hands over your nose and your mouth and breathe into your hands, and you have too much oxygen in your body. I was like, what? How can you have too much oxygen in your body?
I know, it's so
I was breathing wrong. I was not getting enough CO2 in my lungs. I had too much oxygen, and that sorted it out. It was amazing. Yeah, so much that we need to discover.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a very short break at this point, and we will continue afterwards where Angela will explain to us more about the link between breathing and metabolism, which is also fascinating.
And we're back.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
A quick sum up of what we're talking about.
So we're talking about the importance of breathing through the nose, deeply and slowly.
Yes.
And the link to our health, we especially spoke specifically about increasing your metabolism, and it's linked to the burning of fat.
Mm-hmm. And also now a little bit sort of how you should breathe according to your metabolic need, which means what are you doing at that point. So we touched very briefly on exercise earlier. When you start moving a bit faster, say you go up the stairs, you can feel your heart rate going a bit faster. Don't feel like you have all of a sudden you've got to pant. Actually force yourself to breathe slower and a bit more deeply to get your heart rate used to being more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And also your lungs to be absorbing more air, therefore more oxygen, therefore more oxygen to your muscles. And you will find that actually you can go up those stairs a little bit more easily because you've got more oxygen. So be very conscious of that. And again, not high up in the chest, but more deeply into the belly. Just lower down so you get that oxygen into the capillaries that will bring the oxygen into the body. So that's a really important thing. So obviously if you start running, then you'll have to breathe faster. There'll be a stage where you'll have to breathe out from your mouth, but try to never ever breathe inhale from your mouth.
My husband told me a story of when he was younger that he was actually disqualified from a running team because he wouldn't or couldn't regulate his breathing, which was breathing out of his mouth and breathing in from his nose. And his coach told him, well, you can't be on this team because you're going to hurt yourself the way you're breathing while you're running.
That is interesting because in Taekwondo, sorry, were you finished? Or?
No, that was it.
Yeah.
That basically,
absolutely.
And that was ages ago. That was decades ago.
Yeah, they knew already.
About this.
And interestingly, in Taekwondo, I take part in these technical competitions. So we show like a series of moves and we mimic as if we were fighting against someone. And it's like gymnastics. You get scored on your on the technique if it's done properly, but also on your presentation, etc. One of the things that can make you lose points is if your breathing is wrong, and they can see it because you're not shouting in the right place. You get breathless too quickly. You breathe loudly. That is not going to make you very efficient at your performance. So that leads me to this point. Don't over breathe. We've been badly trained, generally speaking. We think we need to breathe really fast when exercising. So I mentioned that. So basically, you never have to work out hard, and then you can breathe efficiently. So it's not the other way. It's the other way around. Don't breathe fast because you've been pushing yourself. Try to reduce the intensity a little bit. Get your breathing right. And when you're stabilized again, increase that intensity and the breathing on a par with that intensity. But don't push yourself faster than or further than you can actually
and then
breathe.
You're training your body and it improves your lung capacity and you're able to do more.
Eventually, don't go too fast. Don't run before you can walk. Like you wouldn't ask a baby to run before they can even stand up. So it's important, for instance, if you go into stretching as well, to breathe deeply, to get that oxygen, get the muscles loose, get this, the soft tissues. And what else? There's a lot of things. Oh, a very important thing we mentioned: asthma and anxiety sufferers. So as we explained earlier, when you increase CO2 in your lungs, it's been found to be profoundly beneficial for people who suffer from asthma. And so you have to, for instance, as I mentioned, breathe through a bag for a minute or so, and that helps. Now, an interesting thing is to breathe through your left nostril. The left nostril has been linked to helping you to lower your blood pressure, lower your heart rate, stimulate your right side brain. And if you swap, that does the opposite, which can be useful if you need to increase.
Tried it. It really does work.
It does come, and it's something that's based on traditional Oriental medicine, like
There's
Ayurvedic.
Thousands of ways to breathe for different things. When I read that, I was thinking, wow.
Actually, if you notice throughout the day, your nose does that naturally. Throughout the day, every half an hour to every 2 to 3 hours, it swaps. And you breathe more from one nostril to the other, and it's linked to what is needed. Also, if you have a cold, have you noticed? It's never both nostrils at the same time. Sometimes you just can't breathe at all from one side, and then all of a sudden, no reason, it just switches virtually instantly one side to the other. Now, some people have got issues, chronic breathing issues. They cannot breathe from the nose. That's what James Nestor advisor said. Please do get something done about it. A surgery possibly. If really is the extreme case, there's no other option.
Well,
but you can.
People breathing from their mouth causes physical blockages. Yeah, so it sometimes you might have to do that extreme. I just want to mention two things before we go. One, we were talking about anxiety. So basically, if you don't, if you breathing can help with your stress. Okay, if once you stress, your body releases cortisol, and that again, it directly affects weight loss. Again, we're talking about weight loss because remember, guys, we're talking to people who are probably middle-aged, but even people who are young can benefit from this. Stress causes weight gain. Okay, so breathing will help you calm down slowly. If you're breathing, it will help your stress, right? Like in Islam, right, we're told that when you are angry is to make wudu and say a dua and, lie down, say A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. This is a way of calming yourself down, right?
Definitely.
So that's what we need to do. And I got an exercise from my husband for when you're very, very upset, is to sit somewhere quietly and breathe in and read Ayatul Kursi without breathing out. You just sit there and you do Ayatul Kursi in your mind. You say it, not out loud, obviously, and you breathe out when you're done. And you do it 3 times. And he uses that as a calming technique, and he's taught it to me, and it works. It really does. Now, of course, it's the beauty of the dua, Ayatul Kursi. It's the healing power of the dua, of the ayah, plus the slowing down of the breathing. And you just
focus your mind on something else.
Slowing down, making your heart rate go down, and so this is, I think, the tip that I'm gonna go with.
Absolutely amazing. There's another thing that happened the other day. It was quite cold the other day, and I was walking back to my house. I was shivering, and so there's a tendency of contracting and being tense when you shiver and when you're cold. And then I thought, hold on a minute, that was before you told me about the heat, that how breathing heats up your body. I just naturally thought, no, if I relax, I will just warm up. I will just feel warmer, and I just started breathing a bit more slower, a bit more calmly, but more deeply, and relaxing my body. And lo and behold, I did not feel as cold. And indeed, there are some people who do that. They use this to go and sit outside in freezing temperatures. Some people do that for fun.
I would
and
love
also for health.
to try it once. I would love to do that one time.
Yeah, and they do that for hours thanks to their breathing. Athletes as well, they use a slower way to breathe to mimic altitude training. So there's so many things. So just to finish off, if you average 18 breaths per minute, that's 50% of your breathing efficiency. If you reduce it, reduce your breathing, slow down, and you only have 12 breaths per minute, you increase it to 70% breathing efficiency. Now, some people try and reduce it even more. I would not necessarily recommend it, at least not on your own. Please do it with someone trained. But you can increase that to 85% by having only 6 breaths per minute, but that's quite low. Okay, so that would be a part of a setup. I don't recommend it. But you can breathe, you can slow down your breathing. You can see how it will increase. So basically, all in all, Angela, the takeout is, again, as if we hadn't repeated it often enough. What is the main thing?
Breathe from your nose. Breathe slowly, and breathe deeply.
There you go. And we hope that you enjoyed today's show, all about breathing. Who would have thought we could talk about breathing for an hour? And I'm sure we could have even gone on longer.
Oh,
because
there's so much more.
But that gives you a little taster. And be conscious about your breathing. Be grateful for your breathing and all your muscles and everything that works to do that. Alhamdulillah wa shukrulillah. So inshallah, we will see you next week. Inshallah. Have a wonderful week. And this concludes our show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.